Man, this comic book sucks! And the reviews online said it was good! I wasted my money! Why didn't somebody tell me?
Hey everybody, this is Spinner Rack. We're doing our comic reviews. We have one of two going on today. We're continuing the crossover of the Button between Flash and Batman, the DC Universe Rebirth crossover. And Petey's here. We also have Tell Them Who You Are.
Calvin Ellis is here, ready and rearing to go.
Well, when we last left you, the Button had caused so much havoc in Batman 21, everyone was sitting on the edge of their seats to find out what's going to happen. Is this going to tie into the Watchmen? It does have the same Button. What happened to the Reverse Flash? We don't know what's going to happen. So here we go. We have to go to Flash 21. And that's the Button Part 2. Never has a Button been more important.
Yeah, how you also going to sell this stuff? So, we get into the story. Anybody, if you're paying attention to it, they've been slightly highlighting other characters that are also pivotal towards, I would hope, this story, but also to the DC universe overall. In the first story, we had Saturn Girl, Irma was there, and then the Flash 21 opens up with Johnny Thunder. If I'm remembering correctly, the genie and Say You, that's what Say You. So somehow they need to play into all of this. But what I did like in Flash 21 is that finally the detective aspects of the story have come into play. But the strange thing, it's more so with the Flash looking at, what's happened with Bruce and with Batman being beat up by the Reverse Flash as a crime scene. And then we get a really nice scene between the two of them, pretty much talking, detective lingo, or at least more like cop lingo. Did you analyze this? Did you use this machine? Did you use yours or mine? So those are some good beats that we get right there. And then after that little bit of detective stuff, we're back to the comic book. It's time to travel through time. And I see the cosmic treadmill again. And I'm kind of scratching my head because I don't read the Flash comics regularly. So I'm getting a lot of this through osmosis. I thought the Flash could just travel through time on his own now. He didn't need the cosmic treadmill. Now they're bringing the cosmic treadmill into it. And I'm trying to remember, when did they bring that back? When did the cosmic treadmill, when was it reintroduced into the DC universe? Because it couldn't have been before Barry came back. The last time I saw it, it was destroyed at the end of the Crisis, and they just decided to never rebuild it, which I always thought was pretty funny. They were just like, hey, you know what? It's broken. We can never rebuild it. Like, why? Why not? Like, you can just do the end of that. So those were some questions that actually came about. And then, of course, where are we taken? We're taken back to the Flashpoint universe, which is a universe I don't think we ever need to return to for any particular reason. But we're taken back to the Flashpoint universe. We get to see that meet-up between Batman and Son. And by Batman and Son, I'm not talking about Damian Wayne. I'm talking Thomas Wayne, who's Batman, and his son, who is also Batman. So, of course, the fanboy, the party wants to geek out, like, oh, wow, the two of them actually meet. Let's see what happens. And, that was the meat of what was going on in the issue. In contrast to the first part, I think this issue was better in terms of story. The other one was very much an action-driven, pulse-pounding pace setter. And then this slows it down just a wee bit to actually do a little bit more of the story beats that we should have between two detectives, and then get into the comic book travel through time stuff and all of these other things that would come. And we see how much the Crisis and all this multiverse is going to play into it. But the artwork here, in comparison, Fabok is just doing a really killer job on everything that he's put his hands on. So I guess he's just a hard guy to follow. And Porter's work looks very craggy and scratchy in comparison to the line work that Fabok is coming up. Fabok's work is like really robust, really meaty, really hearty. And the stuff with Porter, and I understand, Porter. If I'm correct, Porter injured his hand, so he's not using the same hand that he would have used years ago in order to sketch his art out. So that's part of it. But it's just a hard act to follow with Fabok. But aside of that, yeah, I think so far we've come into part 2. It's playing out pretty well, and I'm definitely looking forward and interested in seeing what happens in part 3.
I'm gonna work backwards since you did an overview. I would go to say I have no problem transitioning between Fibok and Porter. I think Porter has always been interesting because he's primarily in the same vein that Scott Collins is. They both have, as far as anatomy, they both have a stylized anatomy. But their strengths that they have is the same strength that McFarlane used to have, which is understand how to set up scenes and do wide shots like that. I mean, no one really can beat. Like they almost do stuff that's close to Jeff Darrow as far as their wide shots, like doing the Batcave with the ropes all around it, and they just do nice scenery and setup like that. Whereas their anatomy can be a little off or a little stylized. I'm sort of like I always like you got an image guy, but he has he was never an image guy, but he has an image sort of style, but at the same time he does his basics as far as drawing backgrounds and setups and buildings and whatnot are just unmatched. You can't beat the setups that he can do. The same way Scott Collins can do a city like Porter. I was glad to see because I didn't when he did the Flash, but way before. I think he did the Flash when Barry Allen first came back, and I don't think that was working. But this stuff was really. He really showed to me like he still got that strength that he had. I mean, he's a better artist than he was on JLA way back when. But so then the part for me was a little too procedural for me. And when the treadmill comes into play, like is it the treadmill not working right because they're going to a timeline that should have been X'd off? What's the point in it's still going and saying, oh, it was alternate timeline because we're going to build back to the alternate timelines. It's like I don't know that the treadmill should send them right back to. Besides for fans seeing the Flashpoint, because it was just like, and then the other crazy thing is that the cosmic treadmill is a treadmill, and only Perez could make. I mean, the Porter did a good job of making it look like something, but it's still a treadmill, and and that's the craziest part of the minimalism that you could do in comics, where you have a cosmic treadmill. And Perez designed something that works in the way that you believe that this treadmill can send you through the past and the future and all this other stuff. So I'd say the treadmill still works. I just didn't feel it should have wound up in an alternate timeline unless planned that way.
They're supposed to be following the radiation from the button, or at least that's what that was the premise was. And somehow the radiation is leading them back to the Flashpoint universe. So then there's that. But I mean, I'll be honest, it doesn't make a lot of sense because that universe was supposed to have been gone in order for this new 52 universe to exist. But then it brings in a whole bunch of other stuff that just doesn't make sense because then you have to throw in convergence and it becomes like a whole bunch of mishugash in order to really put it together. And it all stems from Crisis at the end of the day too. I mean, if you're not familiar with Crisis and if you're not familiar with Flashpoint, then reading these things, you're going to be being ignorant of those things is not necessarily going to lessen your enjoyment of the story, but it definitely helps, to keep you from scratching your head more than necessary as you're scratching your head even with knowing all of those things.
It's tough because most comics these days. That's why people don't like flashbacks and a bunch of other stuff. They somehow everyone's in the know, whereas you're supposed to just already know this stuff when you go in. So it's like I need some. I mean, it's not. I was able to follow. I mean, I know some of this stuff, but it's not too confusing. But they don't plan on someone coming in from nowhere and just saying, "Hey, I like this cover," and it's like, what the hell is this? What's the cosmic treadmill? What's Flashpoint? What's Watchmen? Or you don't even hear what's Watchmen, but you don't necessarily know the significance. So at that point, would a push button with a button have this emphasis? Why? I mean, you have to already know what's going on to get some of it. So I definitely see your point, and I guess the last thing I would like to add to this is there's a point where Batman's in the bed, Bruce Wayne's in the bed, and then he says, was it Thawne said he saw God, and Bruce Wayne says, with a capital G, and I'm like, I don't know if that sounds like Bruce Wayne to me. That's not necessarily Bruce Wayne to me. So it's a little too, a little too matter of fact. I mean, it's a little thing, but no, the capital G part. It doesn't sound like something he would say. It'd be something more.
That's not his dialogue. That's not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, he just got beat up, so hey, we'll give him a pass. We'll give him a pass on the dialogue. But don't worry, he gets a lot better in the next issue. Like completely healed better. in the next issue.
I guess that's it. Do you want to give it a grade?
Oh yeah, so far it's a pretty good read. 4 out of 5.
Lord, it's too procedural for me. I'm giving it a 2.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to up mine to a 5, so we can make.
How are you gonna up it to a 5? You already gave it a 4.
I can change my grade. You could always change yours. I never stopped you. No, I'm just kidding. We'll keep it at a 4. So we average this one out. This is gonna be what? This is gonna be a 3 at the end of the day, but still worth your money at the end of the day. So don't worry about dropping some change on this one. Good read, very entertaining.
I'm more for you looking at it for the art that way. And then if you want to stay with the story, I mean, I guess you just definitely have to read it. So if you're staying with the story and we're still reviewing it, I guess you have to get it. So, all right, we're going to get on to the next one. That's going to be our very next review. Batman 22 is coming up.
And we'll see you then.
See you then.
Thanks, Spinnerag. You saved me money.